if there's one thing I feel I've learned tonight, I feel like I've just witnessed the first finalists in this year's Champions League, and that is Paris Saint-Germain. I felt like Paris Saint-Germain today came to the Emirates and they were in absolute control. In the first half, they played some phenomenal football. In the second half, they played with intelligence. They played to seal out the game. They moved their blocks back. They looked to play on the counter-attack. You saw Dembele get subbed off around the 60th minute to introduce Barcola. They looked like a team that had a game plan, had the confidence to execute that, and they'll leave this game feeling, how did we not bag 2 goals in this game? You're looking at Barcola with, after an incredible like move to split open the Arsenal defense. I just thought he scuffs his effort near the end. You could see the reaction of Luis Enrique on the touchline. He was just like, how have you not scored this? This was our moment that seals the tie for us, and we can think about the final. And he messed it up. And of course, the second effort coming from Goncalo Ramos, I think in his head, ideally, he would have tried to put more curl on that to go for the top left bins, but he kind of just scuffs his shot again, toe punts it on the crossbar. And those big moments came in the final 10 minutes. And those moments prove exactly why, I think rightfully too, when I think about this, why Arsenal, I feel, played with a little bit of fear. I mentioned this point because naturally Arteta was going to really respect the hell out of that Paris Saint-Germain front three and that Paris Saint-Germain counter-attack. You give players like this with this much skill and bravery and trickery and maverick ability, time and space to attack you, they will dominate you, they will destroy you. And I just think that maybe because Arsenal were the home team, you have to maybe understand when to take that risk in a game, right? I look at this game and I think the notable advantage Arsenal had was attacking Paris Saint-Germain's left-hand side. Now, from PSG's perspective, they saw it like this. They respected Saka. They had to marshal him. Mendes wasn't allowed to venture forward as much. Instead, that was tasked with Hakimi. And Hakimi made some brilliant underlapping runs, and he was constantly committing himself to, advance up the field when the opportunities arose. And I think this is where Arsenal should have maybe suspected that this could have been a game plan from Paris Saint-Germain, and maybe been a bit braver to attack down the left-hand side, because their best moments came from Drossard, probably their best passing move this entire game, which forced an unreal save from Donnarumma. Unreal save. Wow, the way he just fully extended his whole body and just the anticipation. It was, I think maybe Drossard's shot was strong, wasn't like as fierce as it should have been, didn't have as much conviction for me, but it was still a strong effort which forced a world-class save. And you saw another moment from Martinelli. And I think maybe if there's one player who's going to have a sleepless night tonight, it's going to be Martinelli, because that moment he had, yeah, if he was a better player, and I'm sounding a bit harsh, but if he was a better player, he would have realized, I need to anticipate that Donnarumma is going to try and close the distance between myself and him, and that's going to make it harder for me to take a shot. For a top player, they would have maybe put more lift in their shot to anticipate Donnarumma's arrival. For the real world-class Donisia, they would have looked to play that against Donnarumma and try to lift it with a little jip lob over the top of him. But Martinelli instead just kind of side foots it, and he definitely felt the pressure of the moment, in my opinion, because there was a criminal lack of lift in that shot. And really, outside of those open play moments, Arsenal tried to maybe set piece themselves to glory, which, you know what, they have it in them to make it happen, because I got to give them credit. I think the equalizer, which was disallowed, for me was one of the best inventive set piece routines I've seen. All their big guys are standing at the far post. They're all standing in offside positions. The moment the cross is played, they quickly run back in line with Paris Saint-Germain, which completely and naturally was going to just bamboozle them. And Marino with another world-class header. I think this guy is one of the best headerers of the ball right now. I think when I saw that incredible goal against Germany in the Euros, for me, that's like one of the best headers I've seen in the last 5-10 years. I was like, this guy's got a special talent with that. The neck muscles, the power he can generate, and just, the composure to always direct and cushion these headers away from the keeper. It's a real talent. And you know what? That was the moment Arsenal needed to try and have a more of a fighting chance in the second half, to try and stop Paris Saint-Germain from shifting their blocks back and looking to hit them on the counter attack. Because for me, I just feel like Arsenal, and you can argue, are rightfully wary of the counter attack because they could have lost the game in the last 10 minutes because of that. But it was that fear at the same time that stopped them really being more ambitious. And I just feel like they should have been a bit braver and looking to commit against Hakimi. And you know what I would have personally liked to have seen? Maybe Saka playing on the left-hand side just to try and give PSG something to think about, right? Naturally, he was going to get marshalled on that right-hand side. Mendes wasn't allowed to get forward in this game. He had a job on Saka to stay tight all game. And whenever Saka was on the ball, he had 2 or 3 guys absolutely swarming him. But the best we saw of Saka in this game was the final 7-5 minutes of the first half where, he was trying to force things, run towards goal, force shots, but we saw him on that left-hand side causing some danger. And then we never saw that again throughout the entire game. So I don't know. I feel like maybe Arteta could have maybe been a bit braver in those respects. But equally, you've got only a 1-0 defeat. Thomas Partey is coming back in the second leg. And I think for this type of game, especially with Arsenal's midfield, I think they needed someone of that defensive nous in front of the defense, right? Simply based on the fact that that gives more freedom and confidence for your Rices and Odegaards maybe to push further forward at times, especially a Declan Rice who normally isn't afraid to make those underlapping runs or really combine with the wingers. And I just think that because they lost those type of elements, right, in that second half when Arsenal are trying to, come back, they had a lot of possession, they weren't really able to penetrate Paris Saint-Germain. PSG, they look completely different now that Mbappe's gone. They look like a real team now. And I'm going to spend the last bit of this review just absolutely gushing over, for me, one of the best footballing teams of the season. And I just think if you're a real football fan, you're praying, you're desperate to see Paris Saint-Germain versus Barcelona in a final. If this happens, I will do everything in my power to try and get tickets for the final, because this, in my opinion, could be one of those movie-style finals that we've been waiting to see for a long time, It could be an absolute classic on our hands, because the way they played that first half, I was just in awe of how they played football. It's the verticality in which they played with. It's the rotational ability of that team. Arsenal couldn't cope with Dembele playing false nine. I thought that was like a master stroke that he was playing in the middle there. And when you see the first goal, Dembele, and throughout that first half, was regularly trying to receive in his own half. There was even times I would see, let's say, Neves and Vitinha take up advanced positions up the field, and then the guys looking to receive from the defense was Dembele and was Fabian Ruiz. And you know what? Paris Saint-Germain, they play a style of football that constantly asks the opposition questions, that constantly probes, that constantly looks to try and create scenarios and situations. And this is the beauty of having a super fluid style and players with the technical capacity to pull this off, right? Because you need strong players, not even strong, you need top class players who can play and receive in all zones and all areas of the field. Because when Dembele dropped deep to receive to kickstart the move for the first and only goal in this game, he's receiving on the halfway line, no one's on him, he's running at the Arsenal defense, they're panicking, and I just like the pass he plays to Kvaratskhelia. But the unsung hero in that move was Fabian Ruiz, who in that moment before Dembele plays the ball left to Kvaratskhelia, he looks to take out Declan Rice, and I think, was it Marino or Declan Rice and Timbers? He makes a run inside to the box. That attracts the attention of Rice and Timbers, and this frees up Kvaratskhelia to run towards goal and drive there. And Kvaratskhelia causes a lot of fear to everyone in this game, I'm sure Arteta, sleepless nights, figuring out how to try and minimize, not even defeat, but minimize the threat of that front three. Kvaratskhelia, of course, the composure he has, his footwork, ambidextrous play, the body balance and swerves. I feel like this move was something done in the training ground because the timing in which he just released that pass, but then Dembele, who just withdrew from the rest of the play, yeah, this just demonstrates a team that has incredible understanding of each other, incredible rhythm, and Dembele with an excellent goal with his left foot, making that, 33 goals this season, completely just reborn, and one of the best players in the world. And you could even argue, is there potential Ballon d'Or shouts if they win the Champions League? I wouldn't rule that conversation not happening, in my opinion. But the goal he scored, that's the quality that you need to show in these moments at this level when it really matters. And he displayed that with an incredible first time left footed shot, hit first time and early. Raya, who had a very good game today, the shot was too good for him to save. And from that point forward, I just felt like I saw a Paris Saint-Germain team who, just loved the fact that they had the leads, the confidence they play with. And it's just, as I was saying, the rotational play. For me, it's how they create all these vertical spaces, right? For example, like their back line will shift really deep to receive the ball. There's non-stop rotational movement with their midfield. It's even more difficult for Arsenal to cope, and Dembele is now looking to overload Arsenal's midfield by dropping deep. Arsenal centre-backs had no one to mark. They had no one to pick up, and it was just the front three of Kvaratskhelia, Doué, Dembele, constantly probing on the left side, right side, and central areas. And they were supported by a magnificent midfield. I think Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves. I mean, Joao Neves, 19 years old. What an absolute talent. But they just seamlessly slot in and fit with this style of player in attack. And yeah, it was so difficult for Arsenal. I think Arsenal, maybe to cope a bit better, they had to be brave and maybe push their lines up a bit more aggressively, a bit tighter, but then they're worried about getting caught, in behind, which is a natural fear to have against this PSG team. But I think one thing that Aston Villa showed is that, if you're brave, you press some impacts. If you don't fall for their passing style and let them get away with their vertical play through you, assert yourself physically. That's what you can do. You can assert yourself physically in these moments and try and play direct and try and force certain situations. And that's something that Arsenal did not do enough of. And I think if there's maybe one criticism, which is a random one that I had, I felt like maybe the Arsenal fans didn't really help their team today. I just think, listen, the referee set the precedent by giving an early yellow card. I thought it was a bit of a cheap one, to be fair with you. But afterwards, I just felt like the Arsenal players were reacting to the petulance of the fans. So many silly free kicks being given away. I'm just looking at flipping Timber. 3-4 daft free kicks given away against Kvaratskhelia. It's just telling me straight away that the occasion is really a lot for you at the moment, yeah? The Arsenal fans crying and screaming over, every half, like type of foul or moment that was going against them. The players had to look past it. They had to be smart. They had to keep their composure in those moments. And that was one thing that they didn't do in the first half. And I think that actually hurt their ability to have more influence in that first half because, the amount of times the referee was blowing his whistle, it was actually getting a bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. It was actually getting a bit silly. And this is where, they forced their hands yet again to Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, man, you're seeing this type of team. It's not a normal team this season. Superb team. I don't know how many teams are going to be able to cope against them. They haven't. I think against a team like Paris Saint-Germain, maybe I'm being basic as the armchair fan, but it's simply a case of try and be the better team. Try and outplay them. Try and play football that way. I think this is why I'm desperate for a PSG Barca final, because Barca are probably the best equipped team to take on PSG toe-to-toe, game for game, band for band, blow for blow, football for football. And I'm hoping for all of us, that is going to be what happens in this year's Champions League final. But yeah, man, there's such a joy to watch. Love every moment of PSG this season. I just keep going on about just the verticality, how they create spaces, the rotational play, the players who are dropping deep, positions they're taking up, third man movements they use to create 1v1 spaces for their wide players. It's just, yeah, it's beautiful stuff. So, my friends, man, if you want to see more match reviews of football in general, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel too. I want to try and build this up again, and yeah, obviously do a lot more of these. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow with another review. Love. Cool.